One of the things that I want to talk about is just this amazing, rewarding, and difficult task that each of you have as educators and parents and role models in raising children. It can be at times even painful. I remember once when my kids were about 3 and 4 at the time, I had purchased and decided to buy a gas grill, and I almost blew my children up. And I put this grill together. It was awesome. It was this new gas thing that was big. It could keep a whole backyard warm at night, and it was called Fire Magic. That's what it was called, and it was this amazing grill. So I decided, I'm going to show these kids the dangers of flammable gas and fire. And so I set this grill up, and I'm working on it, and I thought, this is an opportunity for me to teach them. So in my most serious dad voice, you know how you get that teaching dad voice or mom voice? I say to them, all right, I want you to come over here, and I'm going to teach you something. I don't know why I kind of get a southern accent when I get my serious dad voice. I want you to stand right here and watch. This is very dangerous, right? This is something you do not play with. This is not a toy. You only touch this thing if mommy and daddy are here and we give you permission. And whatever you do, you never touch this big red button right here. So I told them if they did that, again, you're going to find a flame that's going to come out of here. And I'm trying to teach them the seriousness of this. And so I said, whatever you do, do not turn this knob. And just to show them, like a teacher, you know how we reiterate a lot of things to our students? I kept showing them, this knob, watch, turns on the gas. By the way, I just built this thing. Just put it all together. This knob turns the gas. And I kind of showed them like 3 or 4 times just to make sure they knew the point. Well, of course, every time I did that, gas kept building up on the inside. So I said this. Now, come over here. I want you guys to just watch this thing one more time. What is it? Never turn this knob. And never push this big red button. So get closer right now. And then I got their attention, and they were all excited, and I just kind of lifted up this, lid, and I said, now watch what happens. Now, by the way, what happened next is a little bit disputed, but what was clear, we all have different memories of this moment. And so I said, now watch, and we all leaned in there, and I pushed the big red button. And as I did, I'm not kidding you, a fireball the size of Texas came out and hit us in the face. It singed every ounce of hair on my eyebrows, my eyelashes, all their hair, their eyelashes, everything was just fully singed. And Lisa comes running over and says, what happened? And she goes, what's burning? And we're like smoldering, standing there. And I'm mumbling something about fire magic, and I teaching them a lesson, and the kids are like, that big red button, man. That's what they were talking about. And I think at the end, what happened? Of course, they really did learn something that day that they never forgot. And that is, when Dad uses his serious dad voice, things are about to get interesting. And that's what they learned that day. Teaching, reiterating, bringing them in, the way we do this as parents, the way we do this as teachers is just something that's so cool and so powerful. By the way, even me just coming up today and talking about flourishing children violates one of the most important principles around for most speakers, and that is never agree to talk about parenting until your children are up and out of the house and you haven't blown them up. Because that way, you at least have a basis by which to talk about things like how to do parenting without really feeling a little bit awkward that your kids are struggling and that this is a difficult thing. So we've got 2 of our kids now up and done and raised, married, happy, enjoyable spouses that they have. And then we have a 12-year-old at home who's awesome. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I want to talk about a perishing world and what it means to have flourishing children. And so I'm not sure, but the top part up there says Flourishing Children. It looks like maybe it's getting cut off, but we'll fix that in just a minute. So one of the things that is important for us to talk about today, and what I want to talk about, is teachers, parents, role models have a high calling. Your calling is to teach and raise flourishing children. And as such, whether you're just maybe some of you are college students, most of you are probably teachers, some of you are parents, this is a very important job that we have. And it's an amazing task. First of all, I have found, and you probably have as well, that our job is getting difficult. I've been teaching for almost 30 years. I taught at Colorado State for a couple of years when I was finishing up my degree there. And I've been teaching here for a long time. And there are some unique, almost worrisome trends coming out there. Probably as a psychologist, I want to just point out too, and hopefully you have some. You guys have the slides in front of you? Everybody have the notes if you want, and that way you don't have to worry about going through this too much and writing it down. But there are trends that are worrisome. The first trend is something that is concerning from us as just from our background in psychology as we're looking at this. One of the things is this idea of disconnect. Disconnect is a troubling and detailed process that happens, but when children become more disconnected, which they are, whether it's from family or community, from the transcendent, we see huge increases in behavioral and mental issues. We see problems in conduct disorders, thoughts of suicide, and attention deficit. Would you agree that these seem to be more prevalent today? I don't know why, but we're seeing these huge numbers showing up that traditionally, by the way, weren't making it here. They weren't coming to college, and now they are. And I think because there's a kind of a pharmacological effort as well that works at bringing some children to a point where they can function, but our office over here, we've had to literally increase the hours of our psychiatrist who's trying to kind of monitor all of the people that are on serious, massive medications. This is starting earlier, isn't it? They are disconnected. In fact, in large measure, people say that have been studying this for a long time that the key problem to the crisis that we're seeing with our children is because of disconnect. They are disconnecting too quickly and too easily, not only from family, but I love this, from the transcendent, from meaning, from purpose. They are being disconnected, and in large part, this is where we're finding our greatest challenge. You see, it's already hard for us to model what it means to love Jesus to our students. It's already hard to do this. We do it in our schools. Some of you do it extremely well. Some of you in public schools do. Who's in a public school setting? Let me see y'all's hands. And then in a private school setting. All right, mix. This is being a challenge that is now one of those things that has all of us worried. I mean, we've always had children like this. This is just part of what it means to live in a world that's fallen. But the trends are moving in a unique and very fast speed. Second, culture has rapidly changed. Things previously unquestioned, as Dr. Hetzel was saying, things that are right and wrong, just or unjust, loving or hateful, they are no longer clear, and you can see on your notes, they're no longer are they clear nor universally agreed upon. I can't tell you how many times I am just shocked that my assumptions that I have made about what's right and wrong are no longer there. If you're under the age of 17, 16 right now, there are things that in this world that's just always the way it's been. My 12-year-old, man, messaging and the way they communicate and the way they talk, that's one thing. But I'm talking about fundamental views, values, and beliefs of what I'm thinking, wait, you believe what? This is where? So this has changed underneath us like a tsunami. You don't see it coming. You know what a tsunami, the thing they always talk about, it's so benign. It just happens, right? It's just like, oh, this is not a weird thing. In fact, it's not even a big wave. It's just that the amount of the change behind it is devastatingly powerful and deceitful. Cultural changes right now are huge. We have lost fundamental assumptions that we all agreed upon. So, if these are the troubling trends, what I want to do is share now just a little bit about what I believe are the encouraging trends. So here's some encouraging news. And you'll see it on the slide. I find this one hopeful. The world and our culture still see and notice the kids that flourish, the people that flourish, the schools, the relationships, the marriages. When they flourish, there's something about it, right? There's something about, and we seem to take notice of this, maybe more so now because it stands in stark contrast to what some of the culture shows. So our children that do flourish are extremely powerful because they stand out so much. They stand out in a world that's perishing. It's almost as if their behavior, something about this says, here I am, see this. It's not that they're calling attention to themselves, it's just that there's very kind of fundamental part about them draws us to them. The world still notices and needs these models. We still need them. We have to watch them. They are unique and special, and I believe other kids see these as well. Do you agree? That kids that have something about them, you know when they're in your class, you know when you see them, you know when your friends come home with them, or your children come home with their friends, and you go, there's something, I like this kid. There was one I really enjoyed. You know, I didn't explore it all that much, but this one kid of all of my kids as friends was somebody who could talk to me, an adult. I don't know why, that just stood out like, I like talking to this kid. It's like they had, and then I realized they could talk to an adult. You know how many kids can't do that? They can't shake their hand. They don't shake hands. They don't look at you. And then they're like, well, yeah, and they mumble, and they're like, well, you're awkward. Like, no, you're awkward. I'm an adult. It comes with the territory. You shouldn't be awkward. Talk to me, look at me. But when a kid does that, you're thinking, you stand out. Behaviors stand out like this, right? And almost always there's something there that's about them that's different. It might be a family. It might be the fact that they're engaged with a community, in which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But I want to show you a video. Hopefully you can see this and it doesn't wash out. But this stood out to me as a very cool example. And this is a guy named Steve Hartman. He takes this thing on CBS called On the Road. I absolutely love what you're about to watch. And it's a kid named Jonathan Montanez from another school, and you'll probably be able to figure out it's about a basketball game. Thanks, David. I'll click play. Oh, that's even better. Or maybe we'll switch the lights and do the other ones. No, maybe is that it? That's what you get. I love that. That's exactly what I wanted. Not that. Here we go. All right, Steve. No, Here we go. Steve Hartman. On the Road.
And I know you guys get tired of me. It's little things.
Coach Peter Morales of the Coronado High School Thunderbirds in El Paso, Texas, makes no qualms about it. He has a favorite on this team.
Mitchell, I need you to help me out with my coaching tips, Mitchell.
Team manager Mitchell Marcus has a developmental disability.
1, 2, 3,
but he far surpasses everyone here when it comes to love of the game.
He's just an amazing person that our basketball team loves being around.
Yay!
Mitchell's mom, Amy, says he's always been that way.
Mitchell always had a basketball. That was always what he wanted for his birthday.
And because basketball is that important to him, on the last game of the regular season, the coach told Mitchell to suit up.
What was it like to put on the uniform?
I was very happy.
I imagine you were.
Just wearing a jersey was enough for Mitchell. But what he didn't know, what no one knew at the time, was that the coach planned to play him. At the end, no matter what the score.
You were prepared to lose that game.
For his moment, yes. For his moment in time, yes.
And so, with a minute and a half left, Coronado leading, but only by 10, Coach Morales put in his manager.
And just started hearing Mitchell.
But here's where the fairy tale fell apart. although his teammates did everything they could to get Mitchell a basket. Each time they passed him the ball, he either missed the shot or, like on their last possession, booted it out of bounds, turning the ball over to the other team with just seconds left.
He wasn't going to be able to score. But I was hoping that he was happy that he was just put in the game.
Could you have ever imagined what happened next?
No, I did. I could not. Not at all.
What happened next happened on the inbound. The guy with the ball there is a senior at Franklin High School, number 22, Jonathan Montañez.
I was raised to treat others how you want to be treated. Just thought Mitchell deserved his chance, deserves his opportunity.
I think I'll cry about it for the rest of my life.
What Jonathan did was yell out Mitchell's name, then threw the ball right to him, right there. One of the most memorable turnovers of all time. It wasn't the game-winning shot. When the buzzer sounded, Coronado had 15 more points than Franklin. But Jonathan's assist and Mitchell's basket did change the outcome decidedly. Play any game with this much sportsmanship, both teams win. Steve Hartman on the road in El Paso, Texas.
This is hard for me to watch. I just get so moved by it. Why do I get moved by this? Well, what's so powerful about that little clip? Somebody, I don't know, just raise your hand. What's powerful about it? What's important? What's deep about it? How many were moved by this amazing act? Does the world notice this? Look, they're holding this kid up. That's on the outside. I believe when they go home, they're going to think about Jonathan Montañez, the kid on the other team, who thought about what it meant because he took the perspective of somebody else. He's 16 or 17 years old. What stood out to you about that? What was there? It was what? Compassion. It was amazing compassion. What else? What else did you see in this little clip?
I think he transcended the moment.
We say it transcends the moment because there's something about the transcendent in the moment. Do you feel something deeper and transcendent about that moment when a kid takes on the perspective of a losing himself and gives it to another kid? You have to watch this clip again. His teammate, when he threw the ball in, his teammate went, what are you doing? You turned the ball over. So that tells you this kid, Jonathan Montañez, saw something. He had to pay attention. First of all, he had to pay attention, then he had to have compassion, then he had to think, I wonder what it's like. He quoted a biblical verse when he was interviewed. What was it? He said, I was raised to treat others the same way you want to be treated. Where's that from? That is from, somewhere, Luke. Matthew, John, wherever y'all say. Yes, this isn't a Bible class. It's in Luke, and it says, treat others the same way you want to. It's probably everywhere. Look, this was my point. The world still notices when others flourish. This is flourishing. This is a kid, I don't know where he was taught it. Was he taught it in the class? Maybe. Was he taught it at home? Maybe. Somewhere he picked it up. And that to me is one of the most encouraging things we find. They will know us by our love, says John in 13:35. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples. I don't know if there's anybody who would watch this and go, that stinks, that's horrible, that's bigoted. You follow that, they're going to say, there's something there. Who do we take notice of? Who stands out? The kind-hearted, you said, right? That stands out. He's kind-hearted. Those who seek to be interested, not interesting. If somebody ever asks you, what's one piece of advice that you could give somebody or raise a child with, I would say, this is mine right here. It is better for you to be interested than interesting. You want to raise a flourishing child? Teach him to do that. teach them to be interested. When somebody comes over to your house and they sit down and they're your guests, you teach your child, we are going to be interested in them. You don't need to be interesting. You can leave that alone. Be interested. Come to my house and my 12-year-old's going to say this, Daddy, we're going to play this game right now. I'll say, yep, we know what it is. And she will lead off. And if you're a guest, she'll say to, sorry, Albert, that's right. University of Arkansas, getting his PhD there, finishing up, she'll say, hey, Razorbacks. She'll say to Albert, so Albert, tell me, what do you do what are you doing? And like, where's your favorite restaurant? Where do you like to eat? Well, what do you like about art? This is a 12-year-old. Because we will smack her around if she does, if she's not interested. If she starts saying, oh, let me show you what I do. She's trying to be interesting. This is it. Be interested in somebody else. Isn't that cool? I believe kids that stand out and flourish are those that are interested. They take interest in you. They take perspectives about you. Those with firm beliefs who are also warm. I'm going to talk more about this one in a minute. Those who love with a Christ-centered love, I'll talk about that one in a minute. And the person who is gracious. There's something about graciousness. There's something about, and I'll let you think about that word. Because they use this word of Jesus in a unique way. Think about where they use this word about Jesus. Where did they say he was gracious? In what context? We'll talk about more. So, the world still takes notice of those who flourish, right? With mounting scientific evidence, it is also clear of a second trend that what? A second trend is we are designed to connect. Psychologists, neuropsychologists, teachers, medical people, all of them, anybody who is interested in studying humans and the brain, find this. We are clearly designed to connect. There's something about it. You can't fight it. So when we start looking at this as Christians in the field of psychology, what we start to do is, dear Lord, this points to, wait a minute. Then we say, this is something that is built into us. It's like a fingerprint of a design. Why would it be there so strongly? Watch this little thing. It's just one of my kind of favorite little videos. Maybe if you've seen it, I'll just play it. You don't have to turn down the sound. It's just two twins. Not a single intelligible word is just played between these two kids. But something happened here. What happened? There's a built-in mechanism by which we connect to other people, and we do it in a way. What are they doing in here? Show me ways that they're connecting that's powerful and deep that allows for connections. How are they doing this with each other? They're not saying, oh, that was a great idea. They're just going, blah, 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 blah. But they are saying to each other what? By their behavior, they're learning how to share the talk. They realize that, oh, wait a minute, you're talking. I'm going to do what when you talk? I'm going to listen to you. And the way you know they listen is they do what? They made eye contact. They laughed when the kid said something funny, which is kind of really funny, like, no, you got that all wrong. It's really this way. The other one, no, you're funny. Here's what this is built into the brain. And see, we just take this, we skip over this very quickly, but psychologists and neuropsychologists are going, oh, something's there. This is very powerful, deep, built in. It's evidence of design. And the fundamental, most important part is it's hardwired. There's a need to connect that's hardwired. It connects us to others around us. It connects us to God. And in an interesting way, this is what we find all over the place that is beginning to make us go, what is going on here? I'll tell you about 33 doctors, teachers, and scientists who recently got together, wrote an extremely important article, I believe, that talked about the fundamental crisis facing our children today. The reason they're not flourishing is because simply they are losing or missing out on ability to connect. The hardest part about these 50 behavioral disturbed boys and this teen home that we ran, Elisa and I, with runaway teens, the hardest part was they were disconnected from their home. They had to be taken out, or they ran away. They came to us busted, broken. And that's hard because we're wired this way. It's a fundamental need, and this hardwiring is something that we're noticing more and more. One quick example is a patient named X. In my field in psychology, we're very familiar with X. I don't know if you know him. Patient X is the one that he had a series of strokes, and it wiped out his ability to see, because it wiped out this nerve that goes from the eyes to the back of the brain, just wiped it out completely, and he's blind, with one really weird exception. And even just saying that's weird. He's blind. He can't see anything. But if you put a picture in front of him of a human being making an expression, an emotion on their face, he sees the expression. Whoa, hold on. He doesn't see it. He feels it. This guy is blind. So what happens is you put a picture in front of him of a face like this, people smiling, he'll go like this. He doesn't see it, but he goes, I think they're happy. I think they're disgusted. Wait, he's blind. How's he doing that? You see, this is what's amazing. Here's where it's hardwired. Ready? We're hardwired to connect. Its vision is so powerful. We have two pathways to vision. One that goes from the eyes to the back of his brain, right back here. All of that was fine. That nerve that connected it, called this high road, was wiped out, completely gone, blind. But there's a second pathway that you have and I have and he had that remained intact. It's the low pathway, this low road that went from his eyes to his amygdala, which extracts emotional meaning from faces, from people, from context. And he felt the emotion. It still was intact. We have that today. That's what it means to be empathic. That's what it means to pay attention. That's what it means to flourish, is we pay attention to things like this. See, this stroke killed this thing, but this pathway is called affective blind sight. We don't need to be blind to use it. The amygdala, by just its design, the hardwiring, extracts this emotional meaning from nonverbal messages, a frown or a grimace, a sudden change of body posture, a tone of voice. If you walk away from talking with somebody, I guarantee you that's what's flipping and going, that you're not always necessarily cognitive of. You have some there, but you're going, that was an interesting conversation. There was something deeper there. There was a connection, or there was a judgment. There was something I didn't like. And that's what patient X has showed us. Did I drive home a little bit the point? You have questions, anything? We're designed this way. So I'm going to show you, David, you mind? I'm going to turn these lights down because this is a very disturbing video. So why are you showing it? I don't know. I'm going to show you a disturbing video for just 1 minute, but I want you to watch it something. Watch connections, because it goes like this. If you haven't seen this, tell me, watch for points of connection. Tell me how it works.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then...
All right, what did you notice? What were the connection points? Something the mom did, something the baby did. What do you think? What'd you see? There was eye contact. When one smiled, the other smiled. What happened when the baby pointed? The mom looked over. Oh, things you might miss. These are all designed, built in. And parents do this naturally. And then we ask this mom to do something. For 3 minutes, do not connect with your child. Don't be mad, don't be angry. Give them what's called the still face. And here's where it gets slightly disturbing. But no children were harmed in this. Filming.
And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay.
Watch how quickly she recovers. Watch. Within seconds. Watch the smile. Oh, you're back. Mommy, you're back. I am sorry. It's Saturday morning at 9:11, and you may have cried twice. That's a messed up weekend, man. And who's responsible for this? I wish I could go on and on about this. You talk about parents giving a still face. Watch parents when they interact on a cell phone. Ay, ay, ay. That's messed up. This is hard because this child is designed to connect, and it immediately realizes something is there. By the way, we talk about flourishing children or those who are raised in homes in which there's a connection. We talk about flourishing marriages. You talk about a troubled marriage. Sometimes this is what you find. So, in doing this, as a result, I want to point out two things. We don't like being ignored. Would you agree? Kids don't like being ignored. Here we are, teachers, you know this. They don't like it. It's almost a form of punishment to ignore somebody to an extreme, isn't it? That's punishment. That's painful. We don't like being ignored, and we don't like feeling odd or different. All right, any questions as I go on here? We got about 20 minutes. I'm going to bring up to 3 important things. But before I do, I want one more quick story about feeling odd or different. Nothing? You all good? All right. Besides, when we feel sometimes ignored, we hear from some people that are dealing with different kinds of things, how they can feel ignored. So we took college students and we gave them a test, and we said to them, we're going to put on you a physical deformity that people will notice and see. So we brought them into a lab. We put on them a scar that was extremely hideous and ugly. And we showed them in the mirror. And they went, oh. And now we said, now you got to go out there. And we want to see what you feel, what it's like to be awed and ignored. And come back and tell us what happened. And every student that wore this thing walked out, and they came back and said, what? People were more distant. People treated me differently. I felt like they were cold. They stood far away from me. And we said that we wanted them to get a taste of what it felt like to be different, right? To be ignored. And here's why I love my field of psychology. Because not a single student was actually wearing the scar. They walked out the room after seeing in the mirror the scar, and the makeup artist said to them, wait just 1 second. It's peeling off. Let me put some more glue and fix it, and removed it without them knowing. They have no scar. They're walking outside. They believe they have a scar. And people are colder and more distant and unkind because they thought that's what they were going to see. You want to talk about something that has a whole lot of wow? What does that mean? We don't like being ignored. We don't like feeling odd. And sometimes part of that lies in the way we view and see ourselves. Scarface. That was the study. And the movie, maybe. I don't know. In large measure, what's causing this crisis. Remember I told you about the 33 doctors, scientists, teachers who went out and studied this. They said, well, in large measure, what's causing this crisis of American childhood is a lack of connectedness, close connections to other people, and deep connections to moral and spiritual meaning. God loves you just the way you are. He doesn't make any mistakes. He is with you. You are a child loved by him. You are not odd or different. And they're missing some of these messages, the meaning and the purpose. Raising flourishing children requires the right social conditions, forming close connections to others, forming close connections to communities and social institutions like churches, and forming deep connections to moral and spiritual meaning. All right. Now, for the last 10 minutes, I'm just going to give you what I think are 3 important keys that we can do as teachers and educators, as parents, role models, whatever the case may be. First of all, the first key that I think in raising flourishing children and teaching them well is warmth and structure. If there's anything we have learned about good teachers and good parents, it's they are both what? They set boundaries and they're warm about it. They're nurturing and they have limits. They have consequences for behavior. This is how I survived a 2,000-mile round trip with 8 behaviorally disturbed boys in one car for 2 weeks. Because we protected who we brought by putting them in a place where they had to earn coming on this trip, and they knew there were consequences about their behavior, and we were warm about it. There's a nurturing. You see, this is sometimes called a firm center and soft edges. Is that what you heard it from? Or maybe like, you have that. You need to maintain this centeredness, this firmness. Here at Biola, we call it what? You'll hear this phrase a lot if you're here. It's conviction with compassion. That's all this means. Children typically learn to be what they admire. And having warm and nurturing relationships with admirable adults is the single finest way to help children flourish, learn, grow. By the way, just you know these other things, but I listed these for you real quickly. Here's how children flourish, I believe. And when your students show up, when your kids show up, we need to, one of the things is listen, show genuine interest. This is what I was trained to do and taught to do. It's hard to do, but you show genuine interest. You put the phone down. Whenever we had a kid who, you just listen to him. That's what you do. You validate. I flourish when you validate my feelings. You don't judge my feelings and thoughts. You share your feelings and thoughts. You act curious about me. You provide affection. You spend time with me. You set clear boundaries and you follow through. Oh, my wife is so good at this. I'd be like, whatever, you're fine. She's like, no, give me the phone. Like, they're fine. She just needed to check. Give me the phone. That's the rule. Like, and I think that's awesome. And they like it. Not that moment, but they like it. You provide positive affirmation, and I can't see number 10. You have fun and laugh with me. Those are keys. Those are important. I have them listed there for you. You can think about and talk to them. So let's talk about warmth and structure. One more thing. By the way, what's limits without nurturing? We call that authoritarian. This is my limits. I don't care. This is how you follow. We call that authoritarian, right? You familiar with these from Diane Baumround, who studied this many, many years ago? And nurturing without limits is what? It's permissive. But nurturing with limits is authoritative. This Latin word's amazing. It means, check this out. The word for authoritative is a Latin word that means one who creates. Oh, think about that for just a minute. One who creates, who helps flourish. The Boys Ranch, this is the best thing I ever saw, was working with these 50 kids and watching this first counselor who all the kids loved. She was fun, she hung out with them, and I remember the first few days going, okay, they like her. What's she doing? And they did not respect her. They didn't think she would. They would hang out with her because they could get away with anything with her because she was permissive. She was nurturing with no limits, man. And then there was the guy who was just simply authoritarian. Nobody really liked him. But the counselors that both maintained a firmness, a warmth, and set boundaries, that's who survived. That's who made an impact. That's who these kids, when they were struggling, went to them. We know this as teachers. By the way, we explain it. Nurturing is also part of this idea of discipline, and it's part of explaining. Here's what we used to do with our kids. And I tell you, my wife does this really well, and she would say, no, you're going to do this. You're going to time out. You know, some of you all do this, time out, and you have limits and all these things. And so for my daughter, you just explain things, and it's important. Here's my daughter. I'll tell you what. There's just a way, I'm not going to show it to you now, but it's just a way of telling her, Natalie, this is what is going to happen. You're going to go to timeout. And we ask her, Natalie, do you know what timeout's for? She goes, yeah. Timeout's for when I'm hitting somebody and I'm being bad. I said, that's right. But we never told her she was bad. We told her she was evil, but we didn't tell her she was bad. But she learned that her behavior had consequences. That's my second key. Besides now, first, the notion that we provide warmth and boundaries. The second key, I believe, is authoritative communities. I don't have a lot of time to go over this, but there are huge consequences for these words. Studies have now been done that multi-generational social institutions that reflect and transmit a shared understanding of what it means to be a good person and to grow spiritually is what we call an authoritative community. Give me some examples of authoritative communities. Families. Church. Your neighborhood. Your school. These are communities that point people to moral behavior, to good. My daughter's about to get a REACH card because she has, it's at a junior high around here, and I don't know, it stands for respect and encouragement and aptitude. And it stands for something, and she's like about to get it. This is a kid, long story, except for she has a D in math. Please help us. She's awesome, but it's a REACH card that says you're a good kid. You guys have all these. We point you to the good. This is from 33 scientists called Hardwired to Connect. If you want to look it up, just look that, you'll find it. So it says this: groups that live out the types of connectedness that our children increasingly lack. That's what these are. They live out the type of connectedness. They are people who are committed to one another over time and who model and pass on at least a part of what it means to be a good person and live a good life. That's what an authoritative community is. Some examples: churches. Youth groups, this is awesome. Man, people who are doing this, I love them because my daughter goes to them and they point to what's good. She goes, Dad, did you know God says that he so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son? Oh, wow, yeah. Haven't heard that one before. Haven't taught you that one before. Yeah, God, do you know we should treat others the way? Yeah, we should. It's amazing what they learn from somebody else. So goal number one, by the way, of this particular group that wrote this and studied authoritative communities, if you ever want to go look it up, they listed 18 goals of how to strengthen and encourage these places. so that they can become this authoritative community, because this is where morals get passed on, including the family. But goal number 1 says to deepen our society's commitment to those values that build and sustain marital relationships. That's their goal. Family connectedness and community action. I thought, that's awesome. Now, this is where I come in, like, this is why we have a Center for Marriage and Relationships, because we believe that ultimately strengthening marriages is going to strengthen the very foundations of our society and our communities, which help kids flourish. Get them with the marriages. Make sure these parents are understanding what it means to connect with their children. Make sure they're not giving them the still face when they're hanging and disconnected and doing all this technology. And let us consider, it says in Hebrews, how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. Not forsaking our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Stimulate one another to love and good deeds. There is something appealing about a Christ-centered home or marriage and family, isn't there? Something deeply appealing about them. They stand out. People want them. I had the awesome privilege of being at a secular university in a ballroom just like this, talking about marriages and relationships, SMU in the middle of Dallas. And I told them about how to have a good marriage, how to have a good relationship, and there were atheists and non-Christians in the room. And this kid walks up to me, a graduate student afterwards, and says, because my first session was on a Christ-centered marriage. And they're like, some Jewish kids at another university laughed during this session, and others come in. This kid came up and said, I want that. I'm not a Christian. My fiance, she is a Christian. And she's standing there like this. And he says, I want to know about what this means. I want to be that kind of man in this marriage. So I shared the gospel in the middle of the SMU ballroom right there, and he accepted Jesus. And he's now walking with the Lord, and they got hooked up at a church in Dallas, and we just contacted them on Facebook, and they're thriving. There's something appealing about this. This is what we're doing in this center. This is why we want to move out there and fix and do this, because God's calling us. The last thing is cultivate mindfulness, another focused outlook on the world. It's better to be interested, I've already told you. It's not pretending to be present. You can't pretend it. Have you ever seen people pretending to be present with you? That's messed up, man. It looks like this. You can't see it. There's a lady, this mom, she's about to hand her newborn child, and look what she's doing. She's on the phone. Yikes. This little kid is looking, his eyes are looking up at his dad going, and his dad's on the phone. And then this is what he grew up to be. She's talking, laughing, he's on the phone. I love restaurants like that. They're like two guys sitting there, they're strangers. Look, you can't pretend. Is it easy to pretend to be present? Is it easy? Yeah. So some people can fake it. You do eye contact, you hear but don't listen. By the way, David Banner says it's so tempting to believe that faking presence is an acceptable alternative to offering genuine, but it isn't. It isn't. In this area, to be present, there's just a lot of things. Taking away the noises, you'll see that up there. We have to be willing and able to connect with our kids, to connect with our students, and it is hard. Do you agree sometimes it's hard to be present? It really is, man. We got a lot of things going on. I think that's why times alone with God and other things are so important, because it helps set aside the noise. I must learn to embrace the silence to be present. And it's hard to do in a tech world like this. So, what was the 2013 word of the year? Anybody? Talking about, remember, it's in the context of not pretending to be present and being other-focused. The 2013 word of the year was selfie. There's something wrong, man. There's something wrong with that. The word selfie. It's not perspective taking. Perspective taking means that you can get along with others at home and at work. Narcissists, by the way, this is what we have to also be careful of, the other side, entitlement for kids and feelings of so powerful, so strong, I'm so important, but they have a hard time taking the perspective of somebody else, don't they? Walking in somebody else's shoes. They, according to a researcher at San Diego State, narcissists are missing that piece about valuing and caring and their relationships. They tend to lack empathy and have poor relational skills. They're not paying to that low road. They're not paying attention to it. Empathy means I'm listening to you, I'm watching you, I'm seeing how you're feeling, and I'm going, wow, I need to connect with you. Narcissists can't do that. But having self-efficacy, self-control, and perspective taking, these are what lead our kids to success and to thriving. Jesus in Luke did something very powerful. You can read these other things. Our kids are really struggling in the area of religiosity. But now in Jesus in Luke, I'll end with this story. Do you remember his parents went to Jerusalem and what happened to him? He was only 12 years old. You all know this story. He's 12 and they don't miss him for a whole day. And you're thinking, okay, that's a messed up parent, man. But it's not, right? We don't ever sit there and think it's not messed up. We think it's what? We think well, that's pretty cool. It's pretty normal. Why? Well, because as they were returning, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents were unaware of it. They supposed him to be in the caravan, and they went on a day's journey. And then they began looking for him among their relatives and acquaintances. Some of you have big families. You're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I still don't know where Johnny is. But when they did find him, or didn't find him among they returned to Jerusalem. This is an authoritative community. They felt comfortable, didn't they? They felt like these are the people we know, the people we love. They can distill good, and he's in no trouble. And that's what we want, these kinds of communities that are authoritative this way. And then after 3 days, they found him. So they had, they literally went about 20 miles out. That's a full day. They turned around and went back. That's day 2. And now they're looking for him. And on the 3rd day, they did find him in the midst of teachers. And you know the story. All who heard him was amazed. And they saw him. They were astonished. The parents were amazed. They're like, what's going on here? Our kid, something's different. Then, of course, the mom had to put on the mom voice, or the dad could have put on the dad voice. Son, what have you done that treated us this way? We've been anxiously looking for you. And I think deep down, that word astonished means they were really pleased and in awe. But they had to put on the mom voice. They had to set those limits. And he said to them, why is it that you were looking for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house? But they didn't understand that statement. And then he continued in subjection to him and to his mother, and she treasured all these things in her heart. And he kept increasing in stature and in favor. It's the same word for graciousness. He was a gracious kid. He found favor in the eyes of others. The world took notice because he was gracious. These are flourishing children. This is the way we do it. We're warmth and structure. We're authoritative communities. This fosters well-being. These 3 help us avoid the problems of narcissism, and they protect our children from becoming too self-focused and entitled and becoming disconnected, detached, and disengaged. And they increase their feelings of well-being, gratitude, and happiness. This, in other words, is how we raise flourishing children.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.